Forget everything you think you know about attraction. Really, forget it. Because you've been sold a well-packaged lie in every movie, every song, every magazine tip. The lie that you need a perfect body, a symmetrical face, or some special techniques from an adult playbook to be unforgettable. Sure, a man might crave a body, enjoy a night, remember a pretty face for a few days, but that craving, that deep, almost primal longing to come back to you again and again without knowing why, it doesn't come from the skin. A man sees hundreds, even thousands of bodies in his lifetime. Eventually, they all start to look the same. They blur into background noise, like photographs shoved randomly into a drawer. But there is something he never forgets. Something that burns itself deep into his nervous system, into his very core. He never forgets the woman who dared to do something with him that no one else ever did. The one who touched him more deeply than anyone else. Without a single physical touch, the one who undressed him emotionally in a way he's never experienced. A man doesn't get addicted to a body, but to the woman who laid his soul bare. Sounds poetic, it's not. This is neurology, psychology. This is the hidden truth that 99% of women don't know, and that barely any man could ever put into words. What exactly is this emotional undressing? Is it a conversation, a glance, a gesture? What switch flips in the brain that turns you from just another woman into the only one? And why is it so powerful that it eclipses every other woman? If you stay with me, I won't promise you 3 cheap tricks. I'll give you a map of his psyche, precisely when he's at his most vulnerable. And I promise you, after this, you'll be connected to him and to yourself in a completely different way. But the question is obvious. If this emotional exposure is so powerful, why does no one talk about it? Why are we still so obsessed with appearances, the gym, makeup, expensive lingerie? The answer is simple but brutal. It's easier to work on the body than the soul. It's more convenient to watch a makeup tutorial than to really listen. It's more comfortable to buy new clothes than to confront your own vulnerability. We've built a society based on appearances, on what others think, on how we seem rather than who we truly are. And in this game, everyone wears armor, especially men. From a young age, they're taught, suppress your feelings, boys don't cry, be strong, show no weakness. They're trained to be fighters, providers, soldiers. They're praised for strength, endurance, stoic silence. That armor becomes part of their identity. And yes, it works. On the battlefield, in the office, out in the world. But what happens when the door closes? What happens in intimacy, where the armor should come off? That's where the big secret lies. Most intimate encounters are nothing more than a clash of 2 suits of armor. Surface level, scripted. How was your day? Good. Tired. Conversations that touch nothing, open nothing, connect nothing. You can have the best sex in the world and still feel like you're emotionally light years apart. Sound familiar? Because under that armor is a person, a human being with doubts, fears, insecurities, and a quiet, almost desperate longing to be seen as he really is, without a mask, without a role. And this is the promise of this video. Today you will learn how to become the one woman to whom he willingly hands the key to his armor, not because you force him, but because he feels safe with you. I'll explain why a conversation that felt simply deep to you might have been the most emotionally transformative moment of the year for him, why you'll recall certain moments when you unknowingly triggered this mechanism and a raw connection was formed. And most of all, you'll learn how to do it intentionally, how to create a space where vulnerability isn't just allowed, but becomes the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. Because when a man feels safe enough to strip emotionally in front of you, something magical happens. He gives you more than just trust. He offers you his loyalty, his fascination, and yes, his dependence. So get ready, because we're about to enter a space that very few dare to explore. To understand how you can give this man the safe space he secretly craves, you first have to step into his skin. Not as a fantasy, but as an exercise in radical empathy. And imagine his day for a moment. He wakes up, and the war mode kicks in instantly. He has to perform at work, be the best, have answers, solve problems. Doubt is seen as weakness. After work, he meets friends, same game, different clothes. It's about success, new car, promotion, weekend wins. It's all a subtle competition, a constant measuring of who's more successful, more masculine. Vulnerability, a joke. Complaining, ridiculous. Then he goes on a date, and he knows exactly what's expected. Be charming, confident, entertaining, have a plan, pay, lead. It feels like a never-ending audition, where one wrong move could be the end. He's used to women asking about his job, his car, his status. His armor is the center of attention, and he shows it off, polishes it, because he believes that's all he's worth. Day after day, the mask fuses with his skin. Eventually, he doesn't even realize he's wearing it. He lives in exhausting superficiality, in a never-ending performance where he plays the lead role in a script he didn't write. But deep down, in the quiet moments before sleep or under the shower, this man longs for something real, something raw, something he can barely name because he doesn't even know how to ask for it. He longs for a ceasefire, for a place where he doesn't have to prove anything, where no one judges him by his bank account, his job, or the car he drives. ChatGPT said, he longs for a space where he can take off his armor, breathe deeply, and say, I'm exhausted today. I'm afraid of failing. I don't know what I'm doing with my life right now. And for the person in front of him not to see him as weak or broken, but to simply look at him and say, I understand, and it's okay. That is a safe space, not a physical place, but an emotional state that you, as a woman, can create. It's like an oasis in the desert of his inner world. Most people want to entertain him, impress him, or worse, fix him, but almost no one gives him what he truly needs, a refuge for his vulnerability. And this is where many women, with the best of intentions, make the biggest mistake, a mistake that destroys any chance for deep connection. They believe the path to intimacy is through sex. They think seduction, games, and suggestive messages are the bridge to his inner world. But the opposite is true. Sex can be the result of intimacy, but it's rarely its origin. Approaching a man through sex is like trying to get to know an architect by only looking at the basement of his building. You miss the blueprint, the structure, the heart of it all. True intimacy, the kind that's addictive, begins long before any clothes come off. It begins on the battlefield of his emotions. Think about it. He comes home after a terrible day at work. He feels like a fraud, a fight with his boss, the weight of not feeling good enough. His armor is scratched. What do most people do? They ask the most useless question in the emotional dictionary. How was your day? And he automatically replies, good, tired, as usual. And the conversation ends there. Connection dead. Now imagine a different scene. Same day, same burden. But you look at him, pause for a moment, and ask a question that disarms him. Something like, forget the job, what internal battle did you fight the hardest today? Or What thought kept circling your mind today, the one you couldn't share with anyone? You ignore the armor and knock directly on the door of his most vulnerable self. Maybe he brushes it off with a joke, but something is different. You've planted a seed. Without saying a word, you're communicating, I care about what's underneath. I'm not satisfied with the official version. I want to know the real person behind the mask. The turning point, the moment that changes everything, is not in analyzing his problems or offering solutions. He's not looking for a therapist or a coach. The mistake is in trying to give him advice. What he truly needs is a witness, someone who hears his fears without judgment, someone who acknowledges his quiet battles, someone who's interested in his scars, not as signs of weakness, but as the roadmap of his life. If you care about his shattered dreams, the projects he started with hope and then had to abandon, if you ask him about his smallest victories, like the day he forced himself to go to the gym despite inner resistance, or finally made that dreaded phone call, these are the keys to his inner world. Each of these questions is like a click of the lock on his armor, and the more he opens up, the less exposed he feels, and the more he begins to admire you for your courage to dive that deep. And this quiet admiration is the first step to loyalty. It's in that exact moment when you've created that space and he starts revealing fragments of his soul to you that the real magic happens. That's the moment that turns a fleeting encounter into an unforgettable connection, the point of no return. Because you need to understand one thing. A man can have sex with many women. He can desire many. The body attracts, yes, but the world is overflowing with physical stimuli. His primitive brain is oversaturated, beautiful bodies, fleeting pleasures everywhere. But connection, a safe haven for his soul, someone who doesn't just tolerate his vulnerability but quietly honors it, that is incredibly rare. That's like a unicorn. That's the most precious treasure in his emotional world. And if you give him that space, you're giving him something he can't find just anywhere, but something absolutely unique. And his brain, his nervous system, his entire being will remember it. Then comes the explosion. Physical nakedness arouses for a moment. Emotional nakedness creates a bond that never fades. I'll say it again. Physical nakedness is temporary, an act with an end. Emotional nakedness is lasting. It leaves a mark on his chemical memory. Because when he shows you a crack in his armor, and instead of pouring salt into it, you touch it gently, you're sending him the most powerful message a man can receive from a woman. You're not saying, I like you. You're not saying, well, I want you. You're saying something far deeper. I see you behind your armor, and that doesn't scare me. It makes me fall in love with you. I see your chaos, your doubts, your struggles, and I don't think you're weak because of them. On the contrary, I see you as human, real, and that real man under all those layers, that's the one I choose, and I respect him. That's the climax, the switch that changes everything. In that moment, you're no longer just a woman he enjoys spending time with. You become the woman he needs. You're no longer an option. You become his anchor. You're not entertainment. You become his sanctuary. And nothing, truly nothing in the physical world can compete with that. So how do you actually do it? How do you implement this in real life without it feeling forced, without it sounding like cheap therapy? Because understanding the theory is one thing, but living it out in everyday life is something else entirely. The key is subtle, but it changes everything. Stop trying to impress him. Start trying to connect with him. That's the essence. That's the shift in perspective. Your goal is no longer to be the most beautiful, the smartest, or the most entertaining. Your goal is to be his peace. It may sound abstract, but it translates into very concrete actions. First, and this is the most important, you must lead with your own vulnerability. You can't ask him to take off his armor while you're still wearing yours. But be careful, this doesn't mean sharing your deepest traumas on the first date. It's about microdoses of humanity. Casually sharing a small insecurity, for example. Sometimes I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing at work. Do you ever feel that way too? Or, today I just felt kind of invisible. It was a weird day. By opening up first, you give him permission to do the same. You show him the ground is safe. Second, you need to learn the art of asking questions that open doors, not the ones that close them. Forget, how was your day? If you see him lost in thought or stressed, try asking questions that invite self-reflection, not a report. For example, what weighed on you most today? If you could fix just one thing today with the snap of a finger, what would it be? When was the last time you were proud of yourself but didn't tell anyone? The key to these questions isn't just in the words, but in the intention. You're not asking to gather facts or to judge, you're asking to understand. Now comes the most important third step. Listen to hear, not to respond. When he starts to talk, your only task is to be a silent witness. Don't interrupt him. Don't offer solutions. Don't say, if I were you. Don't say, oh, it's not that bad. These kinds of responses are poison. What they really say is, your vulnerability makes me uncomfortable. Let me fix this quickly so we can return to the surface. Your job is to create an empty space, a space where his words can simply exist without being judged. Look him in the eyes. Say things like, I understand why you feel that way. That sounds really heavy. Or simply, thank you for sharing that with me. You're building a refuge, not an interrogation room. He doesn't have to tell you everything. He just needs to feel that he could, if he wanted to. That feeling of safety is the real goal. Because when a man senses that your peace doesn't judge him, that your eyes don't run from his inner demons, that's when the miracle happens. He stops seeing you as someone he's dating and starts seeing you as someone he wants to stay with, as home. And in the end, after this whole journey through the depths of male longing, you may realize something unexpected. Maybe all of this wasn't so much about him, but about you. We've talked about how to attract him, how to connect with him, how to become unforgettable. But what truly matters in the end is this. True strength doesn't lie in what it does to him, but in what it awakens in you. Because to create a safe space for someone else's vulnerability, you first have to create one for your own. To learn how to listen without judgment, you must learn how to quiet your inner critic. To look behind a man's armor, you must also have the courage to look behind your own. This is not a seduction tactic. It's a path of personal growth, disguised as love advice. Every time you choose empathy over ego, connection over conquest, listening over speaking, you don't just become more attractive to him, but to the entire world. You become a woman with depth and calm that others can feel. A woman who doesn't need to shout to be heard. A woman who doesn't need to reveal everything to be seen. The most powerful kind of attraction isn't the one you can see, but the one you can feel. It's the feeling of being truly seen and accepted for the first time in your life. But it's also the energy you radiate when you feel whole within yourself, when your confidence doesn't rely on his approval, but on your own ability to connect human to human. Think of the women you admire most, the ones with that certain something. Their strength rarely lies in outer beauty. Their strength lies in their presence, in how you feel around them. Safe, inspired, calm. That is the true goal. So the next time you feel insecure, when you think you're not enough, when you feel you need to change your body or your face to be desirable, remember this. The most powerful aphrodisiac, the most irresistible quality you possess, is your ability to be a sanctuary in the storm. And no one can take that away from you. It doesn't wrinkle, it doesn't age, it never goes out of style, it only grows stronger with time. So the next time you sit across from him, you have a choice that will define the depth of your connection. You can offer him what the whole world already offers: a pretty face, a surface-level conversation, a body for one night. You can play the same game everyone else is playing, the game of external validation, quick wins, fleeting attention, or you can offer him something that few dare to give. You can choose to look behind the role he plays and connect with the man he truly is. You can offer him quiet closeness instead of empty noise, a deep question instead of a shallow compliment. So I ask you, what kind of woman do you want to be? The one who makes his life prettier for a while, or the one who becomes the architect of his inner peace? The choice is yours. But never forget, don't offer him your body for a night. Offer him a home for his soul, and he'll stay for a lifetime.